Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Another week, another episode. Hi, I'm Braden. Welcome back. I keep messing it up, don't I? Okay. Hello, and probably. Well, you see the difference. Last week, I explained I was going to go into prison/military mode, and so be it. We'll talk about it later if necessary. I wanted to start off with the most important stuff, which would be, how are we doing? You can have a whole range of emotions this week, seeing as, well, at least when it comes to me, seeing as last week I was going to go through a dip, which we're probably coming out of at this point. And it just means all my teammates and my maybe family members, friends, etc. Everybody is allowed to go through something too. I mentioned it briefly last week. But nonetheless, hope you're doing better than I, and feel free to spill the beans, maybe in the comments section, and I'll try and respond appropriately. But hope you're doing well, or well enough. Okay, what, maybe I should maybe I should end the episode here and react to comments, seeing as I got none last week, and then upload a new one. I don't know, or what, or go live. I downgraded my internet plan so that I don't have as much data, so I can't really go live. But neither here nor there. Okay, let's get into things, please. I don't know. First order of the week is probably, aside from you guys, most interesting stuff. I think we pretty much covered anything. I didn't really do much. Actually, had a minor, reporting to you. I approached the other thing that I do that is show businessy. So actually didn't get to it last week and went through a little bit of a lull, and maybe I'm still going through a lull. It doesn't matter. The point just being happy to report and trying to move on to more important stuff. We do have a lot of stuff in the news this week to maybe or maybe not talk about, UFOs, things like that. But I'd really like to cover all my bases first. Let's see. I was supposed to update you on what happened with an arrow being painted on the street or not. I realized I could check that in Google Maps in real time afterwards, but here we are now, and I'm sure you didn't really need the update, but and maybe what's gone on with my court appearance. And I'm sure you probably don't want to hear much of that either, but there was, interestingly, Google, even on your phone, will give you snapshots of what year and month they took these photos, and you can go back in time. It would actually help to prove your case if you have one in the future. There you have it. Trying to help in case we all want to do our own little daily vlogs. But aside from that, yeah, there was no arrow in the street. Just a white sign and a white sign across the street. It was this new little thing that they were catching me on. What happened in court, I could sum it up in one sentence. I feel like I should maybe throw trivia at you only to make it a little more fun, but the cop didn't show up. And some of that might have been just because this was 3 years ago or more. And some of that might have been because of the scenario I gave you. I'll never know. I tried to look him up. If you can look up cops publicly, how computer or internet savvy am I supposed to be? What else? Let's see. I know we can get to stuff like in the news stuff, but I'm mostly here trying to entertain. Let's see. Glad to have some interactions with the general public. That's another thing. It's like, how's my week? My week is when you're out here by yourself in the wild. My week is dependent on how other people view me. So I'm constantly in this, back and forth with the general public. It's weird, but I think it's pretty accurate. And then some of that is another reason to just be kind to people. Don't be kind to people if you have backup. Like if you're a kid and you got parents and they're gonna get your back even after the principal or the dean or the whoever. My advice is not necessarily treat other people like you'd like to be treated. My advice is to follow your curiosities. I'm not actually putting out any message here, but I think you guys get where I'm coming from. Let's see what else happened. I'd love to check over my notes to make sure I grabbed everything, and then maybe we can get into some more in-depth, cooler talk. I'm excited about my prediction results for the National Basketball Association, and maybe made contact with people in the outskirts of my family, that sort of thing. Let's look at the notes. Let's see if I've covered everything. Yeah, for the most part. There's a couple things. Last week I didn't remember to give this to you, and I scanned over my notes a little too quickly. Didn't bring this up. It was somewhat of a little bit of a pride thing where I wasn't going to talk about the same subject 2 weeks in a row. And this was like looking back on it after I recorded that episode last week. 6 weeks. This was more than 6 weeks back instead of what I thought was probably maybe 4. And so I wouldn't mind bringing it up again. In fact, only if it helps. Working on the front lines, like let's say you work at a supermarket checkout stand, or maybe bartender or something similar to what I do or something. You have to battle your inner primate on a daily basis, and some of that is attractive people on the other side of the checkout counter, and you just have to do your best. I remember getting back on a flight back from a location. I don't really do that much traveling, but this was maybe my second big adventure, and getting a little flirty with the airline staff, which I'm sure they get a lot of. I promise never to do it again, but it got more intense than it's a wild story, in that it's so boring, but it's wild to me. Airline stewardess, whatever the appropriate term is for the ladies up there, would just lean over. She didn't. This is something that happened. It's not something that happened twice, but for somebody to lean over and keep their backside up against my elbow, I'm a little bit on the, what is it called, the alley seat, the aisle seat. Anyway, so I suppose this is a bit of a theme. I also learned, speaking of doing your own podcast, and maybe I can get to what I was gonna say, yeah. But speaking of doing your own podcasts, what was I gonna say? Well, I remember what I was supposed to say after this, which is the amount of. I mean, we're almost probably at like 10. Yeah, see, I mean, it's like almost over. And fair enough, we might have got to some stuff. Not going to weigh on me too much at this point, but up to this point, I mean. But the amount that I think about doing this versus the amount of minutes it takes out of my week, I don't know if it's appropriately balanced. But what was I going to say about doing your own podcast? I forget. Let's move on. I'm also starting to get used to just the things that I don't say. So do we want to talk about it? UFOs. A lot has been happening with artificial intelligence. I brought it up briefly, only to not talk about it many weeks ago. Or Donald Trump being indicted twice. I mean, these are mostly boy topics, I understand, and somewhat interesting, right? I mean, gosh, I mean, it's intense. I've been watching some documentaries, and if these people are reputable, it's like over and over and over. I mean, I don't know what to think, but I can give you this. If I had to flip a coin on whether people had really seen beings or not, I mean, that is actually, maybe I can't give you that. Meaning, I would hate to make the wrong prediction if it turns out otherwise. I certainly haven't seen anything in the sky that weird, except for what I believe was the late one night a long, long time ago, campfire adventure. The whole sky is, filled with stars. Looks like a dome, right? And I believe I showed it to the people, and we came up with the possibility that what we were looking at was the ISS. Yeah. I don't even really know the terms that well. But before we get out of here, maybe insight on UFOlogy? I mean, what? Oh, the most important thing I just wanted to talk about briefly, or skim over with it, would be and then I remember what you're supposed to do with your podcast if you have one, or if you want to start one. I mean, the funnest thing to learn about this UFO thing is the direct correlation with the public and the government, and what is the direct relation as well, and what is right or wrong in terms of sharing all this stuff with the American public, not to mention deciding to cover it up and stuff. I mean, this stuff goes way back, right? So I just think it's interesting that people in the military are starting to agree that this stuff should be shared with the American public and not go underneath Congress's nose. And then I also tend to think, why would Congress, if these people are electable and they move in and out of Congress on a semi-regular basis throughout the years, I mean, then why would they have to know the most secret stuff? I mean, it begs a question anyway. I don't know. I'm not trying to be smart. And then last thought on the UFOs. I mean, what do you think? But neither here nor there. I figure I want my audience to be skeptics, ideally. And I don't want to come out like, this is crazy stuff. But wouldn't you think that the Treasury Secretary would be part of this scandal, Uh-oh, gotta go. Last thing. If you're doing your own podcast, I don't mean to go over time here, but I don't think I've realized this before. I realized, and sorry about the old crappy old new look here. I promise to grow it back as soon as possible. That what generally makes for a great episode, I'm starting to figure out here, is much like Seinfeld or any other long-standing program on TV. It's to start with end with what you started with, or come full circle. So, needless to say, this episode hasn't been a great example of that, and doesn't mean I'll be attempting it in the future, but maybe. I don't know. Well, I hope you guys have a good week. I'm coming back. I hope you guys are, if you happen to be in the dumps, that is. And trying to get out of here as soon as possible. Till next time. Adios.